Hey, hi everybody, welcome. We are into the book of 1 John at the moment. If you just joined us, then thank you for doing that, and I hope that this little series is going to be a blessing to you. We're talking about a letter that Jesus' best friend wrote to the church, just encouraging them and admonishing them sometimes and pointing back to some of the fundamental truths of our faith. And 1 John sets the tone in the one chapter where it talks about God is love. And we've had a great look at what that looks like, God's love and His grace and His mercy. But now we're into the big stuff of the implications and the applications of His love, because His love is the foundation of everything that happens. I want you to see that. We're into chapter 2, and I want to read to you just a couple of verses from this amazing chapter. This is what he says in chapter 2. My dear children, I write this to you so that you will not sin. But if anyone does sin, we have one who speaks to the Father in our defense, Jesus Christ, the righteous one. He is the atoning sacrifice for our sin, and not only for ours, but also for the sins of the whole world. We all understand the issue of sacrifice, do we not? Sometimes we see sacrifice in the natural. We see a mother lion sacrifice her life for her cubs. We see mothers in the modern day world, epitome of sacrifice for their children. They'll do anything for their kids. Sacrifice is a glorious and a very noble thing, and we see it all around us. But I want to tell you that the key word here is not the sacrifices, but is the atoning sacrifice. An atoning sacrifice is a sacrifice that you don't have to make. You are atoning somebody else's sin. You're taking from them the consequence of their own mess up. And when you atone for somebody, it means that you take their debt upon you and you basically pay it. And they go away free of charge. No more debt, no more guilt, no more sadness. You have taken that. You have made an atoning sacrifice. So this is what qualifies the sacrifice of Jesus, to be the atoning one. We see it through the Old Testament, the blood of sheep and goats and animals and all those other things that were as a picture of that one day the real Lamb of God would come and would atone himself for the sin of the world. He would offer himself as a sacrifice for the sin of mankind. Now you all know where that happened on the mountain of Calvary. You all know who did it. Jesus did it. In order for him to be able to atone, he had to be perfect. That's why none of us could cut it. No one of us, not one human being, would ever to be able to make an atoning sacrifice, because we're all sinned. If we were to make a sacrifice, it would be on our own behalf. But Jesus made an atoning sacrifice. He's the only one who was eligible to do that. In his perfection, he did it. In John, who was Jesus' friend who's writing this letter, John stood at the cross and listened to Jesus speaking. The second last thing that Jesus said was, he said, "It is finished." Now in the Greek, that word is tetelestai, and the real interpretation of that, as well as it is finished, it is this: it is paid in full. Jesus hung upon the cross, and he said to the people around him, my death is the final deal. It's the final nail in death's coffin. It's the final nail in the consequence of sin's coffin. It is the atoning sacrifice. So when I die, it is finished and it is paid in full. Now listen, people, listen carefully. If you're trying to pay for your own sin, you're wasting your sacrifice, because that sacrifice is already made. If you're living in guilt for sin that you have committed in the past, listen, please, that guilt needs not be there anymore, because Jesus has not just taken your sin, he's taken your guilt, he's taken your baggage, he's taken all of that stuff with him when he made the atoning sacrifice. So what does that mean for us? It means we're free. It means we have nothing more to do other than accept the gift of his sacrifice. Now you got to look at your own life and say, well, maybe I'm just guilt-ridden and I'm trying to make an atonement for my own sin, And we have different religions around the world that will tell you how to do that, from beating yourself up to punishing yourself in some different way. Jesus says, please don't do that. It's not necessary. I have paid not just the sacrifice, but I have paid the atoning sacrifice. You couldn't do it. No one else could do it. I, because I'm perfect, made that sacrifice on your behalf. I guess, people, that's what sets our faith aside, apart from every other faith out there. They're all trying to earn their forgiveness. Jesus says, you'll never earn it. You'll never do enough good things to atone for your sacrifice. You'll never be a good enough individual to be able to atone for your sacrifice. For goodness sake, relax. It is done. Accept my gift of salvation. It's a gift to you. Just accept it. If you haven't done that and are still trying to earn your way to heaven, or trying to appease a guilty conscience by being a goody-goody or good person, it's nice to be a good person, but only for the reason of being a good person, not to appease your already forgiven sin. Man, that just blows me away. You're going to have a good day now. Bye-bye.